Silence is a currency. That's what I'd learned working for Adrian Moretti. You trade in it. You bank it. You spend it wisely. But standing in his penthouse office at 11:47 p.m., watching him hold up the medical invoice with trembling fingers, the one I'd been stupid enough to process through petty cash, I understood that some silences cost more than I could afford to pay. My mother used to say I was born practical. While other girls played house, I organized spreadsheets. While they dreamed of princes, I calculated compound interest. By 26, I'd perfected the art of being invisible. The kind of assistant who anticipates needs before they're spoken, who moves through rooms like well-oiled machinery. Adrian Moretti hired me because I didn't ask questions. In his world, a world of half-truths, offshore accounts, and meetings that ended with someone leaving through the service elevator in pieces, silence wasn't just golden. It was survival. For 4 years, I'd been the perfect employee. I knew which calls to ignore, which envelopes to burn, which names never to repeat. I kept his calendar, managed his properties, and ensured his empire ran with the precision of a Swiss watch. In return, he paid me well and largely forgot I existed. That was before the gala. Before the champagne and the storm and the 20 minutes in the coat check that I'd convinced myself meant nothing. Before I'd woken up alone in my apartment with his cologne still on my skin and the cold certainty that men like Adrian Moretti didn't do morning afters with their assistants. Now, 5 months later, I was hiding more than just secrets. The blazers got bigger. The heels got lower. I scheduled his meetings around my morning sickness and blamed my frequent bathroom trips on a stomach bug. I worked twice as hard to prove I was indispensable, that whatever had happened between us hadn't changed anything. I told myself I could manage this. I was good at managing things, budgets, schedules, crises. A pregnancy was just another problem to solve with careful planning and meticulous attention to detail. What I hadn't planned for was the prenatal appointment that ran late. The specialist who insisted on payment up front. The split-second decision to use the company card. Just this once, with every intention of reimbursing it before Adrian's forensic accountants ran the monthly audit. I hadn't planned for Adrian himself to pull the quarterly expense reports on a sleepless Tuesday night, searching for a leak in his organization. I definitely hadn't planned for him to recognize the date on the hospital invoice. To connect it to the calendar entry I'd deleted, but he'd somehow recovered. To do the math that I'd been praying he'd never think to do. But numbers don't lie. And standing in his office, watching Adrian Moretti, a man I'd seen negotiate arms deals without blinking, who'd ordered executions with the same tone he used to order coffee. Go absolutely, utterly still as he stared at that single piece of paper, I realized the most dangerous truth of all. He knew, and nothing I'd planned for could save me now. The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Outside, thunder rolled across Manhattan, and lightning turned the floor-to-ceiling windows into mirrors. In one of them, I could see my reflection, pale, trapped, 5 months pregnant in a blazer that suddenly felt like a costume. Adrian set the hospital bill down on his desk with the kind of careful precision that made my stomach drop. When he finally looked up, his eyes were black in the dim light. "Is it mine?" 3 words. Simple. Direct. The way he asked about shipments or territory disputes. My mouth went dry. I'd rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times in my head, always imagining I'd have more time, more control. That I'd be the one to decide when and how to tell him. But Adrian had built an empire on finding things people didn't want found. Yes. His jaw tightened. For a moment, I thought he might explode, flip the desk, shatter the windows, become the monster everyone said he was. Instead, he went utterly still. It was somehow worse. "How long have you known?" "Since the beginning." "And you were going to tell me when, exactly?" His voice dropped to something dangerous. "After the birth? When the kid turned 18? Or were you planning to disappear?" I reached into my bag with shaking hands and pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying for 3 days. My resignation letter. 2 weeks' notice typed on cream cardstock, professional to the last. "I was going to tell you tonight. And then I was going to leave." He snatched the envelope, tore it open, scanned the single page. Something flickered across his face. Hurt, maybe, or fury, I couldn't tell. Then he walked to the fireplace, pulled out his lighter, and set the letter ablaze. The paper curled and blackened, my carefully chosen words disappearing into ash. "You think you can just walk out?" He turned back to me, and I'd never seen him look like this, raw, unguarded, terrifying in his vulnerability. "That's my child, Amara. Mine. Which is exactly why I need to leave." My voice cracked. I won't raise a baby in this world. I won't have my son learning to sleep through gunfire or growing up thinking violence is normal. I want him to have a life, Adrian. A real one. You think I'd let anything happen to either of you? He crossed the distance between us in 3 strides, stopping close enough that I could smell his cologne, see the muscle jumping in his jaw. You think I haven't spent every day of the last 4 years making sure you were protected? Protected. I laughed bitter. I'm an assistant in a crime syndicate. I'm a liability. You're the mother of my child. His hand moved to my stomach, hovering there without quite touching. And you aren't going anywhere. The penthouse became a gilded cage within 12 hours. I woke to find my apartment emptied, my belongings relocated to the guest suite 3 doors down from Adrian's master bedroom. Security protocols I'd never seen before activated with a series of mechanical clicks, reinforced locks, bulletproof shutters, biometric scanners on every exit. The elevator required Adrian's fingerprint to operate. Even the stairwell door had been welded shut. Temporary measures, he'd said over breakfast, as if imprisoning me was as routine as scheduling a meeting. Until I neutralized the current threats. That was 6 days ago. Now I sat at the dining table, staring at the prenatal vitamins arranged in a little weekly organizer, color-coded by time of day. Next to them sat a printed meal plan, balanced proteins, leafy greens, omega-3s, prepared by a nutritionist I'd never met. My phone buzzed, a reminder to drink water. Another reminder to take a 15-minute walk around the penthouse. A third reminder that my mandated bedtime was in 45 minutes. I was 26 years old, and I had a curfew. You need to eat. Adrian appeared in the doorway, still in his dress shirt despite the late hour, looking like he hadn't slept in days. There were shadows under his eyes I'd never noticed before. I'm not hungry. The baby needs. The baby is fine. I shoved the plate away. What the baby doesn't need is a father who treats his mother like a prisoner. His expression hardened. I'm keeping you safe. You're suffocating me. We'd had this fight 3 times already. It always ended the same way, with him retreating to his study and me retreating to my room, both of us trapped in our respective corners of this luxurious prison. But tonight, curiosity got the better of me. At midnight, I crept down the hallway, drawn by the light spilling from under his study door. I told myself I was looking for my confiscated laptop, some way to contact the outside world. Instead, I found Adrian hunched over his desk, surrounded by books. Not ledgers. Not strategic reports. Books. What to expect when you're expecting. The Expectant Father's Handbook. A dog-eared copy of Baby 411 with sticky notes flagging sections on premature labor and high-risk pregnancies. His laptop screen glowed with an article titled, How to Baby-Proof Your Home. He'd scribbled notes in the margins, highlighted passages, circled words like emotional support and birth partner and skin-to-skin contact. Something in my chest cracked open. Adrian Moretti, the man who ran a criminal empire with cold calculation, was teaching himself how to be a father, not delegating it to experts or assistants, learning it himself, in secret, in the middle of the night when he thought no one was watching. I must have made a sound because he looked up, catching me in the doorway. For a heartbeat, vulnerability flashed across his face before the mask slammed back down. You should be in bed, he said roughly. But I'd already seen the truth he was trying to hide. The phone call came at dawn. I'd fallen asleep on the sofa with one of Adrian's fatherhood books, a peace offering of sorts after he'd caught me spying. But the sound of his voice, sharp and cold in a way I hadn't heard in days, jolted me awake. How many? A pause. And you're certain it's Russo's crew? Another pause, longer this time. Double the perimeter. I want eyes on every entrance. No one gets within 2 blocks without me knowing about it. He ended the call and found me watching from the doorway. Go back to bed, Amara. What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about. But his hand was already moving to his shoulder holster, checking his weapon with practiced efficiency. Adrian. I said go. I didn't. Instead, I retreated to my room and pressed my ear against the wall, listening as heavy footsteps filled the penthouse. Adrian's captains arriving. 4 of them, maybe 5. Voices rising and falling in the study next door. Then the meeting started, and I heard the other side of Adrian Moretti. The side I'd spent 4 years carefully not noticing. I don't care if Marco Russo is your second cousin. Adrian's voice cut like a blade. He put surveillance on my building. That makes him a dead man. Boss, if we move on the Russos now. They're watching my home. Something shattered, glass, maybe a tumbler. They think they can intimidate me? Send them a message. I want Marco's lieutenant to wake up tomorrow missing his trigger finger. I want their shipment at Port Newark to disappear. I want them to understand what happens when they threaten what's mine. The room erupted. Voices overlapping, strategies debated. Someone mentioned collateral damage. Someone else laughed about a previous hit, describing it in detail that made my stomach turn. This was his world. Blood and power and casual brutality, discussed over whiskey like men debating sports scores. And I'd brought a child into it. The meeting lasted 2 hours. When the captains finally left, I stayed frozen against the wall, my hand pressed protectively over my stomach. The baby kicked, as if sensing my fear, and suddenly everything became crystal clear. Adrian couldn't protect us because Adrian was the danger. His presence made us targets. His love, if that's what this obsessive control even was, came wrapped in violence. I had to leave. Not for me, but for this tiny life growing inside me who deserved better than armed guards and enemies circling like sharks. I waited until 3 a.m., until the penthouse fell silent and Adrian's breathing evened out behind his closed door. Then I moved to my closet and pulled out the emergency go bag I'd hidden behind winter coats. Cash I'd been skimming from grocery runs. A burner phone. Fake ID that had cost me 2 months' salary. I'd been Adrian's assistant long enough to know every security system in this building. And I'd been planning this escape since the day he locked me in. The security panel blinked green at 4:17 a.m. My hands shook as I entered the override code. One I'd memorized from watching Adrian punch it 100 times, thinking I'd never need it. Thinking I'd never become the kind of person who fled in the middle of the night. The penthouse elevator opened with a whisper. I stepped inside, pressed the button for the lobby, and watched the numbers descend. 68th floor. 53rd. 37th. Each floor took me further from Adrian's reach, closer to freedom. The baby shifted, pressing against my ribs. This is for you, I thought. This is all for you. The lobby was empty except for the night concierge, who barely glanced up from his phone. I kept my head down, my oversized coat hiding my silhouette, and pushed through the revolving door into the pre-dawn chill. Manhattan stretched before me, dark and infinite. I had a bus ticket to Philadelphia in my bag, then a train to Miss Cole. The voice came from my left. A man in a dark sedan, window rolled down, cigarette glowing in the shadows. He smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made prey animals run. Mr. Russo would like a word. My blood turned to ice. I spun back toward the building, but another car pulled up, blocking the entrance. 2 men emerged, moving with the casual confidence of people who knew I had nowhere to go. Then the lobby doors exploded outward. Adrian moved like violence incarnate, still in his sleep pants and undershirt, gun already drawn. He didn't say a word, just fired twice into the sedan's engine block. The car died with a mechanical wheeze as the Russo spotter scrambled out, hands raised. Touch her and I'll kill everyone you've ever loved. Adrian's voice was barely human. Starting with your sister in Queens. The men froze. Adrian closed the distance between us in 3 strides, grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise, and dragged me back toward the building. His fingers shook against my skin, not with anger but something worse. Terror. The elevator ride up was suffocating. Adrian didn't speak, didn't look at me, just stood there with his jaw clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grinding. When we reached the penthouse, he pulled me inside and slammed the door. Do you have any idea? His voice cracked. He pressed his palms against the wall, breathing hard. Do you understand what you almost did? I was leaving. You can't stop me from. They were waiting for you, Amara. He whirled on me, and I'd never seen him like this, undone raw. The Russos have been watching for 3 days, waiting for you to run. They don't know about the baby. They think you're my mistress, my weakness. They were going to take you and send me pieces until I gave them what they wanted. The room tilted. You knew they were there? Of course I knew. His laugh was broken. Why do you think I've kept you here? Why do you think I haven't slept in 72 hours? He'd been protecting me. The whole time. The storm hit 2 hours after dawn, turning the sky the color of a bruise. Rain lashed against the windows in sheets, and thunder rolled across Manhattan like artillery fire. The lights flickered once, twice, then held, but barely. The backup generators hummed to life somewhere in the building's depths, a low mechanical growl that made my teeth ache. Adrian stood at the window, watching the city disappear behind the deluge. He hadn't spoken since the confrontation, hadn't looked at me. just positioned himself between me and the door like a sentinel, still shirtless, still armed. I'm sorry. The words came out smaller than I intended. Sorry you tried to leave, or sorry you got caught? Sorry I didn't trust you. His shoulders tensed. Lightning illuminated his profile, sharp jaw, hollow eyes, the face of a man who hadn't slept in days. You've known me for 4 years, Amara. You've seen how I handle threats. And you still thought I'd let something happen to you? To our child. I heard you. My voice shook. In the meeting. The things you said about Marco Russo, about sending messages. You think I enjoyed that? He turned, and the rawness in his expression stole my breath. You think I want this life for you? For our baby? He crossed to me, stopping just close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his skin. I'm not angry about the pregnancy. I've never been angry about that. Then what? I'm angry that you thought so little of me. His hand lifted, hovering near my face before dropping. That you'd rather risk being kidnapped by the Russos than stay here. That you believed I'd be a worse father than no father at all. The accusation hit like a slap. Because he was right. I had believed that. I'd spent 5 months convinced that Adrian Moretti was incapable of anything beyond violence and control. But the man in front of me, exhausted, terrified, studying fatherhood books at midnight, wasn't just a mafia boss. He was something more complicated. Something human. I was wrong, I whispered. The admission hung between us. Outside, thunder cracked so loud the windows shook. The lights died completely this time, plunging us into darkness broken only by lightning strikes. Adrian moved closer, and I could feel his breath against my forehead. Can I? His voice roughened. Can I feel? I understood what he was asking, what he'd been too afraid to request before. I took his hand and pressed it against my stomach, right where the baby had been kicking all morning. For a moment, nothing. Then there. A flutter, then a solid thump against his palm. Adrian went absolutely still. His fingers spread wider, chasing the movement, and when he looked up at me, there were tears in his eyes. That's our son. That's our son. He dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against my stomach, and I felt him shake with something between a laugh and a sob. The security feeds died at 9:47 p.m. One moment, the monitors in Adrian's study showed 12 different angles of the building: lobby, stairwells, garage, rooftop. The next, they flickered to static, one by one, like dominoes falling. Adrian was on his feet before the last screen went dark, gun already in his hand. Get to the panic room. Now. What's happening? Amara, move. But I was already moving, already running down the hallway toward the reinforced door at the end of the penthouse. Behind me, I heard Adrian on his phone, his voice clipped and lethal. Marco, report. Marco. God damn it. The alarm system shrieked to life. The sound was primal, designed to shred nerves. Red emergency lights bathed everything in blood-colored shadows. I stumbled, catching myself against the wall as the baby kicked hard. Harder than he'd ever kicked before, like he could sense the danger. Then I felt it, the wet warmth spreading down my thighs, soaking through my clothes. Adrian. He was beside me in seconds, eyes wild. Are you hurt? Did they? My water just broke. The words came out steady, detached, like I was reporting a schedule change. Like my body wasn't betraying me in the worst possible moment. I'm in labor. For one heartbeat, Adrian Moretti, the man who'd negotiated with warlords and stared down assassins, looked absolutely lost. Then something clicked behind his eyes. He scooped me up, moving toward the panic room with brutal efficiency. How far apart are the contractions? I don't know. This is too early. It's too early. I know, baby. I know. But I need you to stay calm. The stairwell door exploded inward. Not the welded shut one. The one that required biometric access. The one only Adrian's security team could open. For men in tactical gear poured through, weapons raised. I saw the Russo family crest on their jackets, a serpent eating its own tail, and understood with terrible clarity what had happened. Someone on Adrian's team had sold us out. Adrian shoved me toward the panic room. Get inside. Lock it. Don't open it for anyone but me. Adrian, no. I'll come back for you. I promise. He kissed my forehead, quick and fierce, then turned to face the men with nothing but a handgun and rage. The first shot rang out as I stumbled into the panic room. I slammed the steel door shut, fingers fumbling with the locking mechanism, and pressed my back against the wall as another contraction ripped through me. Outside, gunfire erupted. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. And I was alone in the dark, feeling my son trying to enter a world that was already trying to kill him. The panic room was designed to withstand anything: bombs, gas attacks, sustained gunfire. What it couldn't protect me from was the sound. Every shot reverberated through the steel door like a hammer strike. Voices shouted in Italian. Furniture shattered. Someone, not Adrian, please God not Adrian, gurgled and went silent. Another contraction seized me, and I bit down on my fist to keep from screaming. The breathing exercises the prenatal book recommended seemed laughable now. In for 4, out for 8. Find your center. My center was outside that door, fighting for his life. For our lives. I pressed my ear against the steel, trying to distinguish Adrian's movements from the chaos. There, his voice cold and commanding. Wrong floor, gentlemen. You should have stayed in Brooklyn. 2 shots. A body hit the ground. Amara. Adrian's voice closer now. I need you to stay quiet. Don't respond. Just listen. I clamped my hand over my mouth as footsteps thundered past the panic room door. They were hunting him, using me as bait, waiting for him to reveal my location. Adrian was too smart for that. The gunfire moved toward the kitchen. I heard the distinctive crack of Adrian's weapon. He always kept the spare magazine in the 3rd drawer, always checked the sight alignment twice. Habits I'd cataloged without understanding why I'd needed to know them. Glass exploded. Someone cursed in Russian, not Italian. The Russos had brought in outside contractors. Then I heard Adrian grunt, a sound of pain he tried to swallow. My heart stopped. Got him. A voice I didn't recognize, triumphant. North wing, he's hit. The words cut off with a wet choking sound. More shots. Closer together now, desperate. Adrian was injured but still moving, still eliminating threats with mechanical precision. I'd seen him sign death warrants without blinking, but I'd never truly understood what that meant until now. He wasn't just dangerous. He was lethal. The contractions were coming faster. 3 minutes apart. 2 minutes. I slid down the wall, breathing through the pain, listening to Adrian systematically clear our home of the men who'd come to destroy us. Last one. Adrian's voice, ragged but steady. Tell Marco Russo this is what happens when he threatens my family. A final shot. Silence. Then footsteps approaching the panic room, uneven and dragging. Amara. It's me. I'm opening the door. The lock's disengaged. Light spilled in from the emergency backup system, illuminating Adrian in the doorway. He was covered in blood, his own and others. His left shoulder was a mess of torn fabric and dark wetness, his shirt sleeves soaked through. But he was standing. He was alive. We need to get you to a hospital. His voice wavered. The baby. There's no time. Another contraction hit, and this one felt different. Final. Adrian, he's coming. Adrian's satellite phone. The one he kept for when everything else failed, connected on the 3rd try. 911, what's your emergency? His voice cracked. He cleared his throat, trying again. My girlfriend is in labor. 34 weeks. Water broke an hour ago. Contractions are 90 seconds apart. We can't get to a hospital. I would have laughed at girlfriend if another contraction hadn't torn through me. I grabbed his uninjured arm, squeezing hard enough to leave marks. Sir, I'm going to need you to stay calm. Is the mother breathing? Yes. She's. He looked at me, and I'd never seen such naked fear in his eyes. She's scared. That's normal. Sir, what's your name? Adrian. Okay, Adrian. I'm Beth. We're going to do this together. First, I need you to wash your hands thoroughly. I've been shot. There's blood everywhere. A pause on the line. Sir, are you able to assist? Yes. The word came out fierce. Yes. Tell me what to do. Beth's voice became my anchor as Adrian moved with one-armed efficiency, gathering clean towels from the panic room's emergency supplies, sterilizing his hands with bottled water and soap. His injured shoulder bled freely, but he didn't acknowledge it, didn't slow down. Adrian, I need to check. I couldn't finish the sentence as another contraction peaked. He understood. His hand found mine, gripping tight. I've got you. I'm right here. Beth walked him through the examination with clinical precision. Adrian's face went pale when he looked up at me. I can see the head. Amara, he's coming right now. The storm raged outside, shaking the building's bones. The emergency lights flickered. And in that small, steel-reinforced room, surrounded by the aftermath of violence, our son fought his way into the world. Push, Adrian commanded, his voice steadying. Come on, baby. You can do this. I bore down, screaming through the pain, feeling something fundamental tear and shift. Adrian's good hand supported the baby's head, his movements surprisingly gentle for someone who'd just killed 4 men. Again, Beth urged through the speaker. One more, Mama. I pushed until I tasted copper, until the world narrowed to just this moment, this impossible moment. Then suddenly release. A wet, gasping cry filled the panic room. He's here, Adrian breathed. Amara, he's perfect. Our son was tiny, impossibly tiny, his skin still streaked with vernix and blood. Adrian lifted him with shaking hands, placed him on my chest, and I felt the last wall between us crumble completely. Leo, I whispered, looking at Adrian through tears. His name is Leo. Adrian pressed his forehead to mine, his own tears falling onto our son's dark hair. Leo Moretti. In that moment, covered in blood and birth, we became something neither of us had planned for. We became a family. The penthouse felt different in daylight. 2 weeks had passed since the siege. 2 weeks of private doctors and hushed meetings, of Adrian's lieutenants dismantling the Russo organization piece by methodical piece. The newspapers called it a gang war. The police called it unfortunate. Adrian called it necessary. I sat in the nursery he'd constructed overnight. Pale blue walls, blackout curtains, a crib that probably cost more than my first car, watching Leo sleep in my arms. 6 pounds, 3 ounces of perfect, oblivious innocence. Adrian appeared in the doorway, his shoulder still bandaged but healing. He'd been quieter these past weeks, spending long hours in his study with the door closed. Planning something. I could always tell. We need to talk. My stomach tightened. Those 4 words, in his world, rarely meant anything good. He sat beside me, careful not to jostle the baby, and placed 2 stacks of paper on the side table. The first was thin, maybe 3 pages. The second was thick, bound with a leather cover. Open the small one first. I shifted Leo to one arm and picked up the papers. A birth certificate, official and embossed. Name, Leonardo James Moretti. Mother, Amara Rose Cole. Father, Adrian Michael Moretti. You put your name on it. He's my son. His voice held no room for argument. The world needs to know that. I looked at the second stack. And this? Open it. The leather cover cracked as I lifted it. Inside, property deeds, transfer documents, photographs of rolling hills covered in grapevines. A stone villa with terracotta roof tiles and shutters the color of aged wine. Tuscany. Far from New York, far from the life we'd known. I don't understand. Adrian reached over and turned to a specific page. A letter of resignation from every board, every council, every criminal enterprise that had defined him for the past decade. I'm done, Amara. He said it simply, like he was ordering coffee. The Morettis will choose a new boss. I've already nominated my cousin. He's younger, hungrier. He'll do well. Adrian, you can't just. The numbers don't lie. He smiled, small and sad. That's what you always said, right? And the numbers are clear. I can't be a boss and a father. I can't teach him to ride a bike while ordering hits. I can't read him bedtime stories and then disappear to a meeting where someone might not come home. Leo stirred in my arms, making the small snuffling sounds that meant he'd wake soon, hungry and demanding. So we leave, Adrian continued. We go to Italy. You, me, and Leo. I'll make wine. You'll probably organize my entire vineyard operation within a month. And our son will grow up knowing his father as the man who grows grapes, not the man who buries bodies. You'd give up everything? He cupped my face, thumb brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I already have everything. 3 days later, we walked out of the penthouse for the last time. Adrian carried Leo's car seat. I carried the diaper bag and a future I'd stopped believing was possible. The morning sun hit us as we stepped onto the street, warm and golden and promising. Behind us, an empire built on shadows. Ahead, a life built on choice. We didn't look back. If you loved Adrian and Amara's journey from secrets and danger to redemption and family, you're not alone. This dark romance of a mafia boss who chose fatherhood over power resonated with thousands of readers who crave stories where love transforms even the most dangerous men. What did you think of their story? Drop a comment below and let me know. Were you rooting for Adrian from the beginning, or did he have to win you over? What was your favorite moment? Mine was when he was secretly reading parenting books at midnight. Should I write more stories in this world? Would you want to see Leo grown up, or read about Adrian's cousin taking over the family business? If you can't get enough of possessive protectors, secret pregnancies, and enemies to lovers tension, hit that follow button. I share new stories every week, from billionaire romances to shifter tales to more mafia men who'll burn the world down for the women they love. And if you know someone who needs a story about a ruthless man brought to his knees by love and a tiny baby, share this with them. These stories are meant to be devoured and discussed. Until next time, keep reading the stories that make your heart race. Sparkles, because sometimes the most dangerous men make the best fathers. Sparkles.